You think your cat walks away because they don't want you around. But that might be one of the biggest misunderstandings cat owners have ever believed. Many behaviors that look like rejection are actually your cat's way of communicating stress, uncertainty, or personal boundaries. In this video, we'll break down some of the most misunderstood cat behaviors using what science tells us about feline behavior, so you can finally understand what your cat has really been trying to tell you. This is probably one of the most heartbreaking moments for any cat owner. You walk into the room, and your cat immediately jumps off the chair and walks away. You sit down beside them on the couch, and they quietly move somewhere else. Some newly adopted cats will even spend days hiding under the bed, despite everything you've done to make them feel welcome. In moments like these, most of us think the same thing. Does my cat hate me? But here's what's interesting. Scientists have been asking a completely different question. What makes a cat feel safe enough to choose being around a person? Dr. Lauren Finca and her team at the University of Lincoln spent years studying how cats interact with people. Surprisingly, they found that the biggest factor wasn't how long you pet a cat or what toy you used. It was something much simpler. Who gets to control the interaction? That's why Dr. Finca's team introduced the cat guidelines choice, attention, and touch. And the very first word is the most important one. Choice. When cats are free to decide when to approach and when to walk away, they show fewer signs of stress and are actually more likely to return and interact with people again. It's completely counterintuitive. Most of us assume that if we want a cat to like us more, we should pet them longer, hold them a little tighter, or encourage them to stay. But to a cat, the freedom to leave is what builds trust. From an evolutionary perspective, that makes perfect sense. Cats evolved as solitary hunters. Before deciding whether a situation is safe, their instinct is to step back, observe, and gather information. So, when your cat walks away, they're usually not rejecting you. They're simply deciding whether they feel comfortable enough to come back. The next time your cat gets up and leaves, don't follow them. Let them be the one who decides when the interaction ends. Because sometimes, the fastest way to make a cat come closer is to give them the freedom to walk away first. But here's where things become even more confusing. Sometimes your cat is the one who climbs into your lap first, starts purring, and seems perfectly happy, only to walk away a few minutes later or even give your hand a gentle bite. If they don't hate you, what changed in just a few minutes? You've probably experienced this before. Your cat is the one who climbs into your lap. They start purring, rub their head against your hand, and seem to be enjoying every second of the attention. But just a few minutes later, while you're still petting them the same way, they suddenly get up and leave. Some cats will even turn around and give your hand a gentle bite. It's confusing. If they didn't want the attention, why did they come to me in the first place? Here's the surprising part. The problem usually isn't that you're petting your cat. It's that you didn't realize when your cat wanted the interaction to end. According to International Cat Care and the American Association of Feline Practitioners, AAFP, many cats experience something called petting-induced overstimulation. At first, petting feels relaxing. But as it continues, your cat's nervous system can become increasingly sensitive, without changing the way you're petting them at all. Something that once felt pleasant can suddenly become overwhelming. And here's the part that catches many owners off guard. Ironically, the cats that trust you the most are often the ones that set the clearest boundaries. They feel comfortable enough to approach you, but they also trust that they can leave whenever they've had enough. Cats rarely go from relaxed to biting without warning. Long before that happens, they usually send a series of subtle signals. Their tail starts flicking faster. Their ears begin turning slightly backward. The skin along their back may twitch, or they suddenly glance at your hand. Those are your cat's polite way of saying, "I'm ready to stop now." Only when those signals are repeatedly ignored does a gentle bite become the fastest way to end the interaction. So the next time your cat is curled up in your lap, don't just listen to the purring. Watch for the tiny changes in their body language that tell you they're starting to feel overstimulated. Sometimes, stopping just a few seconds earlier is exactly what makes your cat want to come back again later. Because, to a cat, a great interaction isn't the one that lasts the longest. It's the one that ends at the right time. But what if you miss every one of those signals? Here's something many people don't realize. Cats almost always warn you before they bite. The problem is, most of us have simply never learned how to recognize those warnings. You've probably said this before. Everything was fine. And then my cat suddenly bit me. That's why many people believe cats are unpredictable. But feline behavior experts have reached almost the opposite conclusion. Most cats do warn before they bite. The problem is, most people don't recognize the warning signs. According to the American Association of Feline Practitioners, AAFP, and International Cat Care, aggressive behavior in cats usually follows a predictable sequence. Before a cat hisses, swats, or bites, they'll almost always try to create distance using body language first. Think back to the last time your cat bit you. Right before it happened, was their tail flicking faster? Were their ears slowly turning back? Did their pupils suddenly become larger? Or did they stop and stare directly at your hand? None of those behaviors are random. They're your cat's way of saying, "I'm starting to feel uncomfortable." And here's something many owners don't realize. The bite usually isn't the first message. It's almost always the last one. But here's the part that's even more surprising. Some feline behavior experts believe that if a cat's warning signals are repeatedly ignored, or if they're punished after biting, they may eventually learn that those early warnings don't work. Over time, they may stop giving as many warnings and react much more quickly the next time they feel uncomfortable. In other words, the real problem isn't that your cat knows how to bite. It's that they no longer believe you'll understand the signals that come before the bite. So if you want to reduce the chances of being bitten, don't focus only on what happens afterward. Learn to recognize the quiet signals that appear just a few seconds before. Because when your cat no longer needs to bite to be understood, that's when you've truly learned to speak their language. But sometimes, your cat doesn't communicate with their ears or tail at all. Instead, they begin changing their everyday habits. And those changes are often the signals that cat owners overlook the most. Not every message your cat sends comes through their tail or their ears. Sometimes, the first thing that changes is a habit they've had for years. A cat that has always used the litter box suddenly starts peeing outside of it. Another begins grooming the same spot over and over until the fur starts falling out. Or your couch suddenly becomes their favorite scratching post even though the scratching post hasn't moved. For many owners, the first thought is, "They're doing this to get back at me." But that's one of the biggest misconceptions about cat behavior. To date, there's no reliable scientific evidence that cats urinate outside the litter box out of revenge. In fact, research published in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery suggests that sudden behavior changes are far more likely to be linked to stress, pain, urinary tract disease, or changes in the cat's environment, not a desire to punish their owner. And here's what's even more important. A change in behavior is often one of the earliest signs that something is wrong. In the wild, an animal that shows weakness is more likely to become a target. That's why cats instinctively hide pain for as long as they can. By the time their behavior starts to change, it may be the only way they have left to say, something isn't right. Think back over the past few weeks. Did you move to a new home? Switch to a different litter? Bring home another pet? Or maybe your daily routine changed. To us, those changes may seem small, but to a cat, they can completely change how safe their world feels. So, the next time your cat suddenly changes a long-standing habit, don't ask, "Why are they doing this to me?" Instead, ask, "What changed in their world?" Sometimes, what your cat needs isn't to have the behavior corrected. They need someone who recognizes that. This may be their first cry for help. So, after everything we've talked about, do cats really hate people the way we often imagine? Or have we been asking the wrong question all along? After everything we've covered, let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning. Does your cat really hate you? Interestingly, scientists rarely study the relationship between cats and humans in terms of love or hate. Instead, they ask a very different question. Does this cat feel safe with this person? In 2019, researchers at Oregon State University used the Secure Base Test, a method originally developed to study the bond between young children and their caregivers. They wanted to know whether cats form a similar type of attachment with the people who care for them. The results surprised many people. About 65% of the cats in the study formed a secure attachment to their caregivers. When they felt safe, they were more willing to explore their surroundings. But when something made them feel uncertain, they naturally returned to the person they trusted most. Once you see the entire video through that lens, everything starts to make more sense. A cat walking away isn't necessarily rejecting you. A bite isn't always an act of aggression. And a sudden change in behavior isn't an act of revenge. Many of the behaviors we interpret as, "my cat doesn't like me," are actually a cat's way of responding to stress, uncertainty, or simply trying to communicate in the only language they have. The best part is, that sense of safety isn't fixed. It's built through countless small moments. Every time you respect your cat's space, every time you notice their body language before they feel the need to bite, every time you look for the cause instead of punishing the behavior, you're teaching your cat one simple lesson. This person listens to me. So maybe the most important question was never, "Does my cat hate me?" Maybe it's this: did I help my cat feel a little safer today? Or a little less? Because the moment you start asking the right question, you also begin to understand your cat's language. If there's one thing to remember from today's video, it's this. Many of the behaviors we mistake for rejection are really your cat's way of saying, "I don't feel safe yet." Now I'd love to hear from you. What's one behavior your cat has that you've never been able to explain? Tell us your cat's story in the comments. It might even inspire a future episode. And if you enjoy science-based videos about cat communication and cat psychology and behavior, be sure to subscribe to Cat Decoded. Until next time, remember, every behavior is communication. You just learned how to read it.